Brief History of Renaissance. The Renaissance, which bridged the gap between the Middle Ages and modern civilization, was a period of European history that primarily occurred in Italy between the 14th and the 16th century. The word Renaissance refers to rebirth. In this case, it refers to the revival of classical Greek and Roman philosophy and art after the Middle Ages, which is sometimes remembered as a period marked by conflict, cultural deterioration, and pandemics like the Black Death. The philosophy of Humanism, which was largely derived from classical Greek and Roman readings and celebrated individual accomplishment in a variety of fields as well as the notion that man was the center of his own universe rather than God, was at the core of the Renaissance. This new way of thinking was in opposition to medieval philosophy, which was focused on the divine and accepting the laws established by the Catholic Church as part of God's will. Due to trade with the Ottoman Empire, the largest economic force in the area, Florence, Italy, became extremely wealthy and became the epicenter of the Renaissance. The Renaissance is said to have originated from the return of crusaders who had encountered advanced Muslim civilizations and had preserved copies and translations of classical texts, as well as from the immigration of scholars to Italy after Constantinople fell. Members of Florence's affluent and powerful Medici family were also well-known supporters of the movement, endorsing public art for reasons of recognition, aesthetic appreciation, and financial justification. Later, scholars like the Dutch philosopher Erasmus spread the movement to other Italian city-states like Venice, Milan, and Rome before spreading throughout Western and Northern Europe. As literature became more and more prevalent in daily life, little-known works by early humanist writers like Petrarch were made available to the general public thanks to Gutenberg and Europe's printing innovations. Shakespeare's Hamlet, Machiavelli's Prince, and Dante's Divine Comedy are among the most renowned works of Renaissance literature. The advancement of the arts was arguably the Renaissance's most notable aspect. The pinnacle of artistic brilliance emerged later in the High Renaissance, when the Medici family provided support for Leonardo da Vinci, Raphael, and Michelangelo. They depicted realistic human bodies in intricate stances, dramatic and poignant compositions, lifelike representations of space, and intellectually challenging subjects in their paintings and sculptures. The Mona Lisa, The Last Supper, the Statue of David, the Birth of Venus, and the Creation of Adam are a few famous examples. The Renaissance saw the most significant shift in society with the end of feudalism and the emergence of a capitalist market economy. A semblance of a middle class emerged as a result of increased trade and the Black Death's impact on the labor shortage, as workers began to demand higher pay and better living conditions. The Catholic Church's power declined as a result of Europeans beginning to question its role and the emergence of the middle class and humanism. In this setting, a German monk by the name of Martin Luther led the Protestant Reformation, a revolutionary movement that split the Catholic Church and questioned many of the Church's practices, including nepotism and the selling of indulgences. Europeans were keen to investigate new trade routes for gold and spices in order to challenge Ottoman dominance over access to India and the Far East. During the era of exploration, Magellan became the first person to successfully circumnavigate the globe in the early 1500s, and Columbus discovered the Americas in 1492. Polish astronomer Copernicus achieved a significant scientific breakthrough when he proposed that the sun, not the Earth, is at the center of the solar system. Nevertheless, the Catholic Church forbade the publication of his book. Later, Galileo Galilei not only improved the telescope and carried out experiments that helped Newton discover gravity, but he also discovered evidence for a heliocentric solar system. The Renaissance movement had ended by the early 17th century for a variety of reasons, such as neighboring powers invading Italian territory, the Catholic Church suppressing artists and writers in response to the Protestant Reformation, and the creation of the Inquisition, which declared any opinions that disagreed with the Church to be heresies and subject to the death penalty. Since there are no obvious distinctions between the Renaissance and the Middle Ages, many historians would rather view the Renaissance as a movement in the arts and culture than as a separate historical era. Additionally, the majority of historians assert that the Renaissance was a phenomenon that only the wealthy could afford, despite the fact that it was a non-issue for the great majority of peasants in Europe. Not because the Renaissance was so important to the 15th century, but rather because its legacy of individualism and humanism has had a lasting impact on the Euro-American world ever since, is why we study it so much today. If you like the video, subscribe the channel and press the bell icon.